Hi guys, Al here. I'm officially jumping on the bandwagon, the 31 Days of Tarot video challenge from Ethony that I've been having so much fun watching everybody's video responses to. Unfortunately, it's February now, so I'm gonna try and cram all my answers really quickly into one video. Also, before we get started, do you see David Bowie peeking out on my shirt there? Oh my god, that's right, Labyrinth t-shirt. It's another awesome t-shirt. 3, 2, 1, go. Number 1 was to do a reading for yourself and figure out the energy or the major lesson or both for the entire year ahead for 2017. And I did do a sort of a year ahead kind of a reading for myself. And the overall theme of it was really interesting. I was able to sort of condense it into a few words. So this is going to be sort of my mantra for the entire year, really. And what is it? Attainment necessitates death. and what that means for me really is, in order to grow, in order to move forward, you know, part of that process is letting go of things that no longer serve you, things that are outdated, that have no value, even if they at one time were very important to you. And it can sort of be, you know, obviously on a deep level, letting go of old ways of thinking, of behaviors that are just useless now, even if they were once so comforting and important. And even on a very mundane sort of a level, I've already been trying to apply it there too. You know, just getting rid of crap that you don't need. Attainment necessitates death. You know, and death it's a change, and a change is a transformation, and you can't do that without a little of the death of something, without losing something, letting it go. But at that point, hopefully it won't feel like a loss, you know? All right, number 2, your top 5 tarot decks of 2016. And this has been a crazy year for me in tarot. I, for sure, got more decks this year than I have any other year in my entire life. The 5 decks that I'm going to mention here are decks that were all new to me this year. First up is definitely my Orbifold Tarot. 2016 is the year of the Orbifold Tarot for me. Love, love, love. Also, a lot later in the year, 2 decks came out that I was looking forward to for a really, really long time. Tabula Mundi and Pagan Otherworlds. Pagan Otherworlds you can pick up and start reading with right away. Tabula Mundi, I am still completely enthralled with, like, learning more about that deck and really, really getting into it. It's really, really fun. And also earlier in the year, Raven's Prophecy was a big one for me this year. I love a deck like that. Tabula Mundi does the same thing too, that just completely reimagines everything. It's like a fresh take on the tarot. Just like the year before, 2015, I think I got the Wooden Tarot, sort of did the same thing. It's like this whole new look and brand new images and scenes and things, and it's so refreshing. It's really fun to dive into a deck like that. And number 3 is your top 5 Oracle decks. And I am, for the purposes of this video, going to consider anything that is not a tarot deck sort of an Oracle deck. Hermes Playing Card Oracle, huge for me this past year. The Petite Atella has been really, really fun to learn about and explore. Also, the Pagan playing cards, I've been using that as just a regular playing card deck, like the Hermes playing cards. And also, this was really kind of recent, but I received this deck for Christmas as a Christmas present from my brother. Was not on my wish list, wasn't really even on my radar. And oh, I gotta talk to you guys about this deck. It's amazing. There's lots of reviews and stuff out there. You can find info on this deck really easy. But it's been really fun. There's like ascended masters and angels and gods and goddesses all in this one little adorable oracle deck, and it's really speaking to me. I'm really liking it. All right, I gotta go faster. Your top 5 tarot books of 2016 is number 4. And by far, this has been one of the greatest moments of my entire life, let alone like one of the greatest books I read in 2016. But that was getting to read a proof of the new Christine Payne Towler book that still hasn't actually even been released yet. It's the Tarot of the Holy Light, Volume 2, Foundations of the Esoteric Tradition, y'all. I'll calm down. I'm calming down. What this is, really, it's sort of like a history of Western esotericism, or a history of magic in general. But it's about the entire esoteric paradigm in general, you know, and that existed long before tarot ever did. And what the book does, it talks about how the tarot expresses and encompasses all of that, all of those teachings, all of those principles, and how, you know, inherent in the tarot is all these correspondences and all these astro-alphanumeric correspondences that you see on the tarot cards that she talked about in her first book. It's an amazing book. The other amazing book that I finally read this past year was Meditations on the Tarot. Why do I feel this way when like a book is huge? It makes me feel like I like to read. It's not the size of it that scares me. For some reason, a big book always makes me think it's going to be hard to digest and hard to understand for some weird reason. And this book isn't. It's super easy to follow. You know, everything makes sense. And plus, it's literally about 20-25 pages on each tarot card, you know? It's like, so you get through this like one chapter at a time, and that's it. Then you move on to the next one. So you can work your way through it really slowly and efficiently. And, you know, this book actually, much like Foundations of the Esoteric Traditions, covers all these esoteric traditions. The perennial philosophy. It's about like the process, the spirituality sort of in general. It is not just about Christianity. And good. It's really good. A few more real quick. These two I've definitely shared. I actually have reviews up of these two books, but I really liked them this past year. The Marseille Tarot by Camellia Elias, whose name I can never pronounce, and the Tarot Playbook. I keep still diving back into this book to have some tarot fun every once in a while. And I have one more book that I want to share with you guys. I only have it on my Kindle here. It's an old book. It came out back in the early 90s, but it's new to me this past year. It's called The Magical World of the Tarot, Fourfold Mirror of the Universe by Gareth Knight. And it looks like it was sort of designed to be like a good all-round intro to the tarot. And it does that. It does that well, but he also has this great way of explaining things, very easy to understand. And he puts things in a way that they just... I've never heard certain things explained the way he explained them. Here's what the book actually looks like. It's like this fool walking down this hallway, and there's all these like giant Marseille cards around him. But it covers a lot of the same stuff that you find in other books: tarot history, explanations of the cards, journey through each suits, how to perform divination, and lots of spreads and examples of the spreads, like sample readings. Those were really great in here too. But he does take a bit more of a spiritual approach to everything that it resonated with me. So it was a good book. And number 5 is, what is the card that stalked you in 2016? And for me, it was the 7 of Cups. That is from the Tarot of the Holy Light. And I remember noticing it coming up a lot literally at the beginning of the year last year when I was working with the Raven's Prophecy. 7 of Cups, 7 of Cups. Same thing happened with the Orbifold. The 7 of Cups kept coming up. Here it is in the Marielle. 7 of Cups. And I think, you know, a lot of the message there for me was, and this is just in personal readings, not necessarily readings for other people, it just kept coming up for me, you know, had to do with the power of your imagination and your ability to visualize and, you know, imagine a change in your life, you know, the power of visualization to make that happen, to make those things manifest. And number 6 asks, what's the deck you finally crossed off your wish list? And again, 2016 was a lot of tarot for me. Victoria Regina on my wish list forever, along with Oswald Worth, the original Oswald Worth from '89. Finally got that. And what else? Oh, Corte de Taroki. That one was on my wish list for a really long time. And also, more recently, I actually got both of these. I won them in auctions on Christmas Day. Believe it or not, guys, Christmas Day is a really good time to hop on eBay because apparently not a lot of people are around. I have lost numerous, like tons, probably dozens of auctions for both of these decks for a really long time, and I finally scooped them both up in one day. It was so weird. But that's the Cariel Visconti. That guy. Finally! Such a good feeling. And also the Grand Tarot Beline. Both of those, the Beline and the Cariel, should have reviews up for really, really soon. And number 7 was to sum up 2016 in a card. And that took some thought, but in the end I went with a 9 of discs. It was, 2016 was a 9 of discs year. There was definitely the reaping of some rewards in a lot of different areas in my life that took a shit ton of work to get to. But that, that alone, that could have been sort of a 6 of Wands kind of thing, right? We got some praise, okay. But when I look at the year on a whole and sort of look within, really what the main energy of last year had a little bit more to do with, yes, things have come to fruition in my life, like physically, jobs and with my things I'm passionate about and relationships, that just made me realize that no matter what happens, I can take care of myself, I can support myself, I can stand on my own 2 feet kind of a thing. And it's nice to have a year that in general you can look back on positively, and see the growth and see some results. And number 8 is, what was your most worked deck in 2016 and why? Again, I told you it was the year of the Orbifold. Thank you, Michael Bridge-Dixon. And it was a powerful deck for me this year for a lot of different reasons. The first being I have been waiting for a deck like this for my entire life. Love sacred geometry, always loved the idea of connecting simple images and geometries with the tarot. I always thought that worked and that it worked well. And I absolutely adore the way that it was done in this deck. And again, it's one of those super refreshing kinds of decks. It's not another Rider-Waite-Smith clone. It gives you very, very different looking imagery. And the simplicity of this was just really, really good to work with, to do readings with. It challenges you in a different way. You're not looking at the expression on someone's face. You're looking at simple geometry, and it lets your intuition loose. It's good. And number 9 is, what are the top 5 decks on your wish list right now? Let's see, what do I really want? Pablo Robledo's Tarot de Marseille, his own tarot, is really, really high on my wish list right now. That deck is gorgeous. Last time I looked, it was available on collecttarot.com for a reasonable price. I also really want to get my hands on a Piedmontese style tarot. I know I was bitching about not having an example of that style of deck in my collection in the History of the Fool evolution video. But yeah, so I think I really want to get one of the Giordano Birdie ones. His Vignano, they come in that beautiful box sets. He's got the Vignano out and the Perrin, and those are both Piedmont style tarot decks. They're a little bit expensive though. There's also a couple of Oracle decks that have really captured my imagination recently. The Viking Oracle, of course, and that other one, the Magician's deck. That deck looks just really, really interesting. What else? There's some that aren't out just yet that I'm really excited about. The Raziel Tarot, that's the one from Rachel Pollack and Robert M. Place, match made in heaven. And the Ostara Tarot, that's got to be 5, right? All right, we'll stop there. And number 10 is your most impactful tarot moment of 2016. And you guys know we have these moments all the time, right? As tarot readers, where you're like shocked and surprised yet another time about, how accurate a reading can be, or how inspirational, or how emotional, or how, this information just came out of nowhere and it was so spot on, and it's kind of like surprising every damn time. So this is actually a reading that I had done for myself maybe about 4 months ago. It was a whole spread, but it encompassed like the next 3 months ahead kind of a thing. That's a time frame that a lot of my readings tend to sort of cover. But I got this message that we, as a family, my wife and I, were going to be in a car accident, which I know is like weirdly specific. It's like, and how do you get that from reading your tarot cards? But what I was getting from the cards was more, there's an event that causes some financial difficulty, some physical pain, that it's a bit of a trauma, it's an upheaval, it's this event, and all its fallout. And what I was getting on my, I would call it my third eye TV screen, was this image of a car accident with me and my wife, both in the car. That's something I felt, and a lot of damage to our little car. So what I did, I certainly, by no means do I think that the future is written in stone, I didn't think it was absolutely inevitable or anything like that, but this is what I was getting. So I did, I put a protection spell, sort of, on our car, to offer protection for those in it, and to minimize damage to the car itself if it was in an accident, and hopefully to avoid an accident. But it's something about it did feel like the energies were just sort of converging in this way. We were sort of headed there. And during the reading, I did ask for some advice. What can I do to avoid this? I sure as shit don't want that to happen. And I don't want to get into detail, but what that advice offered wasn't able to happen. I couldn't make that happen. So it sort of made sense in the end anyway. So what ended up happening was, about 2.5 months later, I got a text from my wife saying she was in a car accident. And I was like, I knew it. I just fucking knew it. But at the same time, part of it felt kind of off because, not that all these details need to be completely accurate, but I felt like I was in it also, and I was like, whatever, I missed that one, that's cool. But yeah, she was in the accident. She ended up being fine. Nothing was wrong with her. She wasn't hurt. And the car had cosmetic damage only. It wasn't anything crazy. It ended up actually even being like covered by our insurance. We didn't even have to pay for it. That was cool. This is real though, guys. Like, this shit happens. The tarot can be this specific and this accurate. But that's not the end of the story, guys. So what happened, I guess, it was the next day. We're on the phone with the insurance company, and it's really stressful and really obnoxious. But it turned out we could go to rent a car for the time that our car was being fixed, right? So we go to Enterprise, we get a lovely brand new looking Prius, and we're both in the car, and we decided to like stop off for food. And as we were leaving the Wawa parking lot, somebody backed up into us in the brand new rental car that we literally had for like 5 minutes. Can you believe that? So yeah, as soon as she hit us, I was like, and there's the other part. Like, I'm in the car and we were just in another car accident. Like, what the fuck? Crazy. Yeah, luckily that car didn't suffer too much damage. But we did have to, we're normal people. We don't take extra insurance out when we rent a car. Of course not. So there came our financial sort of a hardship, even though the initial accident was totally covered. So we still ended up having to pay out like our entire deductible. That was a tough one financially, dealing with 2 freaking car accidents. That part I did not foresee. But yeah, like these tarot, man, it's really crazy sometimes, isn't it? All right, number 11 was what are your tarot goals for 2017? The number one most important thing for me, I think, for the upcoming year would be just getting really comfortable doing like these distance type of readings. I've been practicing with some people, recording them and doing them through email. I'm really excited about it, but I'm not gonna put my website up and sort of open for business until I feel like I'm there. It's not something I have had a lot of experience with. I've always had a person right in front of me that I can talk to and ask questions, and we have this back and forth, and it ends up really being very different doing it from a distance. You kind of have to get all your information from them at once, or just a little bit of back and forth before the reading. So it's very different. All right, number 12 and number 13, actually, I'm going to combine these 2 questions into one answer. What oracle decks and or tarot decks are you planning on working with in 2017? I really want to delve into utilizing some of my shortened or altered tarots, like the Marziano tarot that is a very different major arcana and only 2 court cards, and some of my tarocchini decks that's missing like the twos through the 5s in each suit. Yeah, it's not like it's hard to work with a tarocchini or shortened tarot. It's just a little bit different. So I really want to be able to utilize those decks that I do have to their fullest potential. All right, number 14 is actually really fun. It's asking what court card you would date, marry, have as a best friend, and have as a mortal enemy. I love my first choice was like the same as everybody else's. It's like a classic sort of person to date, that Knight of Cups, that romantic, love affair, the person who's just in love with love and all these things. Actually, for the same reason, I feel like they're a really good person to just date. They'd also make for kind of a good enemy. But I'm not going to go too into detail with why I chose what I chose. These images are from the Slow Holler Tarot. And there is my first choice to date, the Knight of Cups. And then to marry, Queen of Wands. Hell yeah. And as a best friend, the King of Swords. King of Swords. Make a good best friend, right? And then for my mortal enemy, the Knight of Wands. Yeah, that's right. I said it. And number 15, I really like this question too. I was asking what your views are on the tarot court. Is the tarot court outdated or not needed, etc.? First off, I certainly think that the cards in general need to be included in a tarot deck. I think that they're a very important part of the tarot deck that couldn't and shouldn't really be left out. I just took it more to mean, are they actually appropriate in their representation of these figures? And is having a royal court, as a metaphor in the tarot court cards, appropriate or relevant? And, first off, I think it's really interesting that, from some of the earliest tarot decks, there was more gender balance in the courts. right from the beginning. Like in the Carriel, you have a male knight and a female knight. You have a male page and a female page. And then there's lots of other interesting examples of more gender balance, especially where that page becomes a female in a lot of historic decks. And I personally believe that the pages were honestly always kind of meant to represent a female. And you even see it on all the decks. Even if it is represented as a male, it's always, pretty much always, a more effeminate looking male anyway. So I think that was just sort of a product of its time, you know. I think it was just sort of a symptom of the patriarchy that we only ended up with one female in the court cards. So I do love when that is rectified. And we have 2 male and 2 female figures in the court. As for the royal court metaphor, I don't mind it. I think that it's, you know, obviously it's not too relevant in my world. I don't live in a country that has a monarchy, but we're all familiar enough with what these things sort of represent, you know. The king does this, the queen does this, the knight and the page sort of serve this function, and I think they relate really well to what those court cards represent. I gotta say, I also really do love it when modern decks put a twist on things, and I don't just mean, you know, turning the page into a princess. That's still a royal court sort of idea. But I love when people do things like mother, father, son, daughter. I think that things like that work perfectly. I love what the Slow Holler did with, what do they have? Student, traveler, visionary, and architect. You know, coming up with new words that serve the same function for the card, I think is brilliant and wonderful. Yeah, I think it's just sort of a classic thing to do now, to still have a king and a queen and this and that. But I do much prefer to see a gender-balanced court, that's for sure. At number 16, what is your current tarot crush? I am crushing pretty hard on the Slow Holler right now. I am crushing on my little monsters. I'm also really, really loving this one. This is, I haven't really talked about this on the channel yet, but I have had it for a little while. This is a Majors Only Tarot de Marseille, the Millennium Edition from Wilfred, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Hodeween, who's sort of involved in the Tarot de Marseille heritage thing too. But he's even, the deck is beautiful and it comes with a great little white book. And he's got a book out for years now talking about things like this, like sacred geometry that's in the Tarot de Marseille cards. It's really fascinating stuff, and I get a little glimpse of it in the little white book, but the full book is only available in French still. I can't find it in English because I don't think it exists. But anyway, I am definitely crushing on these cards. Look, they're just gorgeous. I honestly didn't even expect to love them as much as I do. They are just crisp and clean, and the coloring is so good. Oh, look at that moon card. All right, I'm stopping. Told you, I'm crushing right now. Number 17 is to show a few pages of your tarot journal, and I have a whole video up, so I'm skipping 17. 18, how do you pick your decks for reading? And honestly, I've heard a lot of people say, you know, it depends on the subject of the reading, or just depends on your mood at the time. And yeah, I definitely do those things sometimes, but for the most part, like I said, most of my readings up until now have really been done in person with somebody sitting in front of me. And you get to know that person, even if that's the first time I'm meeting them, just in talking, kind of get to know them. And get a sense of them, and I pick a deck for the person, honestly, more than for the subject of their reading, although I do that sometimes. You know, if it's someone who you could clearly tell would be kind of put off by nudity, or would be put off by some of my more new age or occult looking decks, you know, I go with something maybe more classic, more simple, either a Marseille or a Red Waite. I don't know if they're like a bit more hipster, or just a bit more green or outdoorsy or something, maybe something like the wild unknown. If they're very spiritual, we go with a more spiritual deck, or a more pagan deck. That'll give them something, I don't know, that they can identify with, or that they might just really like to look at.